Hi guys, and welcome to UWrench. Today we're having an in-depth look at this scanner, which is the ArtiDiag Pro, which has been kindly supplied to us by TOPDON to feature on our YouTube channel. And in this video we're going to be connecting this up to the car and having a look at all of the various features that this scanner provides. Let's do it. So first thing that we need to do is set up our cable with the correct plug for the vehicle that you're working on. This part of the demonstration will be done on a Chrysler Town & Country, which has the standard OBDII port. So we'll attach the plug onto one end of the cable, and the other end we're going to plug directly into the TOPDON unit. Then next, locate where your diagnostic port is on your particular vehicle, and let's get this plugged in. So we can see that now we've attached it, it's actually got a firmware update that it's going ahead and installing, and this is after we did all of the current updates as well. So this is an additional update, so you may well have this the first time you can plug it into a car. So what we need to do is put the key in, turn the ignition to the on position, and whilst you're working on diagnostics you can either have the car running, or if you're not going to have the car running, make sure that you switch anything off that's going to use a lot of power, such as your aircon system. So having a quick look at our main interface here, I've got a couple of things that's worth mentioning. It shows you the voltage here of the battery right at the top, which is quite handy. And we've got some main sections here, diagnose and services, which do two different things that we'll be looking at later in this video. And down here we do have a generic OBDII scanner available as well. And this will give us all of the basic functionality, and you would expect this to be included in a tool of this nature. After all, to buy a cheap one of these tools that's generic would only cost you around $30. It's a nice feature to have, and if you need to look at generic stuff, it can be quite a useful thing. And so there we can see that the generic scan has brought up our VIN number and also what protocols we have on this vehicle. So let's click All Protocols Scan. And remember, this is just a generic scan. Generic OBDII. So what it's doing is it's searching the various protocols there. See, we've got the match for our top one just there. And here we have some of the various options for the generic system. Read fault code. Let's start with that. So there we can see our basic scan has picked up a P0300 fault. As you can see, you've got a little code search button right here. What that will do is that will have a little look online for you, and it will bring up that particular code, and so you can do some research on the information for that code. Obviously this is a pretty cool little feature, so rather than have to go away and go to a different computer and start searching for codes on Google, you can bring it up all on this interface for you. And here we are on someone's website, giving us an overview of what this code means, what the symptoms are, common causes, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really nice feature to have built in, basically a full web browser. So coming back out of that, we have here a help button, and that will bring up a basic description of the nature of the fault. So let's come out of that. As you can see, we do have some more features, but all of these are the generic OBDII features, exactly as you'd expect to find on a $30 scanner. So there's nothing particularly advanced in there, and this only picked up one fault code for us. So what we're going to do is come out of there, back to our home page, and get into some more in-depth diagnosis. So let's have a look at the diagnose section. Now here we've got a list of all of the different vehicles that are supported by this scanner, and this supports over 100 brands of car, so whatever make or model you've got, chances are it's probably in here. And also, if you want to group these, you've got a little navigation across the top here. You can have just American cars, just European, Asian, or if you've scanned cars before, you've got the history of the vehicles that you've scanned previously as well. And to select a vehicle, you can either hit the auto detect, or you can go in here, Chrysler, yes. It allows you the connector type. You can automatically search or manually select. And so it's found the vehicle details for us. Click OK. And here are all of our basic functions. So let's start with the health report. Confirm the key is in the ignition on position. So it's scanning now through all of the different modules that are in the car, and it's bringing up all of the historic faults or current faults that are stored in the ECU. So once it's scanned through all of the modules, it's going to come up with your list of fault codes, which we can see is quite extensive. on this particular vehicle. Now some of these can be historic, they've not been cleared previously, and some of these will most certainly be current. And just to give you an example of that, for example, the battery that was fitted to this vehicle previously was in very, very poor condition and had to be replaced. And so we've got some historic things here, such as system and battery voltage low on the power sliding doors. The battery was so bad that the power sliding doors would barely open. So these are definitely mostly historic faults. One of the nice features of this system, it's got this report button down at the bottom here, and when you click that, that enables you to share this information. So if you want to email yourself a copy of this, you can click share, and we have here the email address that we input in the setup system, or you can add a new email, and then you can just go ahead and you can send this report, and that will be emailed to whoever you've input there. Sending succeeded. So let's come back to our report right here. So because we've emailed that report to us, we have a historical copy of that. And like I said, I know some of these voltage low faults will be historic and should be fine now that we've fitted the new battery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, because I've got a record of this, go ahead and clear all of these codes. And then we'll do a rescan and see what the current codes are, and hopefully it should get rid of all of the historical codes. So here's our new results. As you can see, it's now got rid of the vast majority of these codes. We do have a couple remaining just there. So the only faults that we've got showing up now is low tyre pressure. We do have a faulty sensor, so we're expecting that. And also the battery is low in the key fob. So again, that's a nice easy thing to resolve. So now I'm going to send myself the second scan. I'm going to call that number 2, so that's scan number 2. It's also worth noting as well that if we do have any faults in any of these modules, that they may not become apparent again until you're actually running the vehicle. So essentially just clearing the codes definitely isn't going to solve your problems. If you've got problems in any of these modules, then when you're running the car you're going to get these fault codes coming back on. But at least for us, we know that we've got rid of all the historical ones, including all those low voltage ones from when we had the faulty battery, so we've got a good place to start from. And also with all of these you can click the little arrow here, and that will take you into that particular module, and then you've got various options within just that one module. So here we've got module information, including the ECU part number there, option to clear fault codes. I've got actuation tests, and this is the section for the locks. So what we can do is we can click on. You might have heard that just click then. We can click that back off. So let's have a look at the system selection. Now here are all the different modules, and what we can do is we can go into any of these that we want to. So let's have a look, for example, at the door module front left. And here we can get information on the module. We can clear the fault code from here. We can read fault codes for here specifically just on this one module. You can read data streams, configuration, or you can even do an actuation test. And so for example, let's pick window state. And let's click down, 2.5 seconds. As you may well have heard, that will actuate the window, so that allows you to test that this is part of the bi-directional control that this particular unit has. This is one of the really nice features of scanners like this, is the bi-directional control. Cheaper scanners don't tend to have it, and what it allows you to do, it allows you to actuate any of these modules. So if there's something in particular that you think is not working, for example the window, this allows you to control it from within here rather than physically on the car. So for example, if your window wasn't working and you're not sure whether it's the window motor or maybe it's the switch on the door, then what you can do is you can go in here and actuate it. So we've just actuated that. So in this instance, if our window wasn't working, we've actuated it and the window did come down, then that's likely going to be an issue with the switch, or maybe a wiring issue, but switch would be your most likely. So this kind of a feature allows you to kind of delve in and helps you diagnose and find the exact nature of the problem. So let's go back, and we'll put the window back up. So let's come back out of that, back to our main menu. So as an example, we know that we've got a faulty power liftgate on this particular vehicle. It doesn't operate at all, so let's try communicating with that module. So it could be the motor, or it could be the module itself. And here it can actually communicate with that module, so that's going to probably show us that it's likely not the motor, but more likely to be the module. However, if that had have allowed us to communicate with the module, and when we tried to actuate the motor it wouldn't actually do anything, then that would obviously point us in that direction. So just that information on its own is actually quite handy. So let's come out of there. Okay, so another test. Let's have a look at the right hand side, the power sliding door. Let's do the system test. The door is currently open, so let's do the close test. Okay. Test completed. Test results passed. And we'll also do the reverse of that. We'll open it back up. So sliding door open test. Okay. Make sure that the door is fully closed. It is. So click OK. Test completed. Passed. So again, it's another little example of how useful the bidirectional tests can be for helping you track down various faults around the car. Let's have a look in the HVAC system. Let's have a look at the actuator calibration test. So this is giving us a little warning that what this is going to do is actually going to move the motors which control the flaps or the doors to their full travel limits to determine the travel span of each individual door. Okay. You can hear those motors in the background just being opened and closed one by one. So this is a really nice feature if you've had to replace one of these motors and you want to get it back to the correct position. This is exactly the sort of feature that you're going to need. Test is complete. So front blower state. Okay, so our system needs to be on. Low to high. Current state is low. And high. So there you go, we've given you an idea of how the bidirectional controls work and how useful they can be. Obviously you've got loads you can go into here depending on what your particular fault is, but you can go pretty in depth in this section. So next let's take a look at the special function section. So let's come out of here and we'll click the special function feature. So in this section you've got access to some of the special functions. Let's have a look at a couple of these. Let's start with the tyre pressure sensor reset. And there's our module. It says that it is equipped, so we should click on that. And here it allows us to program each of our tyre sensors. And on our particular vehicle we do actually have a tyre sensor issue, even though we have double checked the tyre pressures and they are all absolutely spot on. So we can use this section of the tool to allow us to program each of the 4 sensors. And so for example, if we were replacing one of the sensors, this would be the section that you come to program in the new sensor to the ECU. Let's take a look at another one here. Let's have a look at the adaptive front lighting system. Equipped. So this is our headlamp delay time. And this is the amount of time that the headlights remain on after you've removed the key. So this is confirming to us that the current headlight delay time is set at 30 seconds after removing the key. Continue to change this setting. So here, if you want your headlights to stay on longer, you can have it for up to 90 seconds. It's got various options here. You can switch it off, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds or 90 seconds. So we're going to stick with 30 seconds. We're fine with that, so we don't need to adjust anything there. But if you wanted to, that's exactly how you'd do it. So next let's take a look at the services section. In here we have some controls for some of our common service procedures. So let's have a quick look at the tyre pressure monitor system reset. And it gives you some information that you can read through and double check you're happy with. So we've got to tell it what vehicle we have. let it search automatically. Go system scan, and here's our module. Back to special functions. You can see we're into exactly the same section that we were into before, but what that section does, the services section, it kind of groups them into a section that's probably a little bit easier to find than having to go through all the modules. What you'll likely find, although this is kind of an easier interface perhaps to access the modules that you want to, for example when you're looking at like the AC system, which we were able to access when we were doing the diagnose button rather than the services one. You may well find that it's not supported via the services. Yeah, here we go, services section, because I'm not seeing a Chrysler on here at all as an option to choose. So via the service section we can actually play around with the AC on this particular vehicle. However, as we saw earlier, under the diagnose section, where we were able to get in and we were able to do various things with the AC system. So the services just kind of combines basic processes, and you can kind of access some of the stuff, but not necessarily everything. But just because it's not in the services section, it doesn't mean that you can't access it. You're going to get far better access, more in-depth access through your diagnose section. Another little example, let's have a look at the body control module. This should give us communication over quite a lot of things in the vehicle. Let's have a look at special functions. So you've got controls here, flash your hazard lamps on lock, you can switch that off. Things like when you lock the car, the horn beeps, again you can disable that if you wanted to. Unlock all doors on the first press. So if you want to press the unlock button once and it unlocks all the doors, you can have that there. Or alternatively, if you want to press it and have it just unlock the driver's door and you have to press it a second time, that's where you control all that kind of thing. Program tyre size, changing wheel size or anything unusual. You've also got things like the illuminated entry time, which is how long the interior lights stay on for after you've closed your door. So you've got quite a lot of controls over kind of the kind of comfort features of the car. So a couple of other features here. We've got this IM, which is emissions preparation. And so this is just a very basic scan of some of the modules that are connected to the emissions. And so if you've got an upcoming safety inspection or something like that, and they're doing an emission test as part of that, you can come into this section and see if there are any potential issues. So it's quite a basic functionality, but also can be quite helpful. So we have here the battery voltage section. As you can see, this section is basically reading in real time the current voltage of the battery. This can be really handy if you think you may have a fault on your battery, because what you can do is you can start the vehicle and see what happens to the voltage during the starting process. So having this little active voltage reader can be very, very helpful if you're trying to diagnose battery issues. And just having a quick look in our data section here. So if you've saved any of your previous diagnostic reports, they would be saved in this section right here, so you can go back and access any old reports. So quite a handy section in here is the diagnostic report section. You can go in there, and here are the previous scans that you've done, complete with the date and also the time. So if you do several in a day, you can make sure that you're looking at the right one. We also have this DTC library where you can actually look codes up. So for example, if we looked up P0300 and clicked OK, it'll give you the description of what that particular fault is. So again, it's quite a handy little tool just for having a quick reference, especially if you're out of range of the internet. A quick reference tool there just to allow you to look up codes manually. You've also got an image section. It's possible to take screenshots as you progress. We'll do that in the settings section. But any photos that you take, you can come back and reference the screenshots in the image section just there. So super quick look through the settings. Most of these are fairly self-explanatory. Here's the screen capture section right here. So if you switch that on, you get this little camera icon appear. And if you take a photo, you'll take a screenshot, and those are saved in our data section in images. So there is our screenshot. And like I mentioned, lots of these are generic: display, brightness, sound, network connection. One that's worth doing is this one here, workshop information, where you input the email address, etc. of your particular workshop. And then what happens is when you do a diagnostic report and you want to send it to yourself, that email address is already in there. You don't have to type it in every time. And also you've got this expiration date right here. That tells you how long you've got on your current subscription with TOPDON. It should be noted that this unit comes with a 2-year subscription included, free of charge. However, it is really important to note that when your subscription expires, it does not mean that the unit will stop working. It will continue to work as normal, but you won't have access to the very, very latest updates. And here on the upgrade section, there's a little icon in the top there that says 3. That means there's 3 current updates available waiting for me to download. So if we go into this section, here are the available updates. Click update, and it will go ahead and it will download and install the latest updates for you. So there we have it. We've had a good look at some of the main features that you'll find on the ArtiDiag Pro. So what were the main things that we liked about this particular scanner? The bidirectional controls on this particular unit are quite easy to use, it's quite functional and also quite logical. So as long as you take your time and go through the menus carefully, you can usually find exactly what you want to control, and you can switch it on or off or make the adjustments in whatever way you want to. So in that regard, the bidirectional control on this unit is very, very good indeed. And another really nice feature on the ArtiDiag Pro was that ability to instantly look up the fault code after you've done your scans. So rather than having to write it down or get your phone out and start trying to do a Google search, you can literally click on it straight on here and it will take you through to Google and do that search for you. So that's quite a nice time-saving function and a really nice little feature to have in this scanner. Another thing that's worth mentioning is it's actually quite a nice unit physically as well. It's quite tactile. The sides are protected, feels quite thick and chunky, and it's not kind of rubberized. It's almost like a rubberized plastic rather than a rubber. So the build quality is a little bit on the cheaper side, but it does feel very nice. It has a good solid look and feel to it. Also, it's really nice to see that it comes with those extra adapters. We've got an extra adapter for Chrysler vehicles, we've got a BMW adapter, and we've got a Mercedes adapter in there as well. And often with scanners, those are sold separately, and they generally cost anywhere between $15 and $30 per adapter. So to have all those included as standard, again, is a really nice feature. And it's also nice to be able to send those error reports directly to an email that you've already put into the system. That makes sending those error reports super, super easy. It's also nice to see that there are definitely regular updates. We only updated this a few days ago when we originally plugged it in for the first time, and already today we switched it on and it came up with 3 new updates. So it's good to see that TOPDON are definitely, at this stage at least, keeping well on top of their updates. So on the flip side of that, were there any features of the ArtiDiag Pro that we weren't so keen on? What didn't we like? Well, first minor niggle, and this does tend to apply to the vast majority of scanners. This is certainly not exclusive to this particular one. Now, although the ArtiDiag Pro does come in a very nice hard case, what you tend to find is once you finish with it and you want to put it back in the case and you start folding those cables up, there's very, very little room to actually get those cables back in those case as it was when it came from the factory. And it would be nice if they allowed a little bit more space for those cables and those accessories within that box. But like I say, that's certainly not exclusive to this model, but it's always a little bit frustrating. Another thing that we found is sometimes it can be easy to get a little bit lost within the menu system that's on this scanner. And although the interface itself is actually quite attractive and it's also fairly logical, what tends to happen is when you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the menus, it can be a little bit hard to know exactly where you are, especially if you're changing between lots of different sections. And we often found that we ended up pressing back too many times and ended up doing the full scan again and having to come back into the same section again, which, only takes 20-30 seconds each time you do that, but it can be a little bit annoying, a little bit frustrating. It would be nice to have a clearer navigation on here, just so you know exactly where you are on every section. Some are better than others. They do have a navigation trail, but it doesn't seem to appear fully in all of the sections. And of course, that's likely to become far easier when we get more familiar with this tool and you're using it every day. And one of the big disappointments in our particular case is we were hoping to use this unit to be able to program a key on a 2013 Chrysler Town & Country. And what we found, of course, is this unit was unable to program a new key without having the correct pin. However, despite looking through numerous sections, we couldn't find anywhere where this unit would be able to retrieve the pin from the ECU for us to then allow us to go on and program our key. Whereas, for example, on the D7 scanner, that actually has within its key programming section a dedicated button to retrieve the pin code. Now, of course, a lot of this will depend on what particular car you're trying to program a key for. Key programming can become really complex depending on the complexity of the immobilizer system that you have fitted in the car. But it would have been nice to at least have found the section that allows you to retrieve the pin code, even if it hadn't have worked in our particular case. And of course, we can't be 100% certain that we'd be able to program a key for this, which is a 2013, using either this or the D7. But the D7 does have a dedicated button to try and retrieve that code, whereas we couldn't find any of that function on this particular model. But with all that said, we have to remember that TOPDON don't actually advertise the key programming capabilities on the ArtiDiag Pro at all. And so if key programming is a big part of what you want your scanner to do, then you'll probably be looking at a more advanced scanner than what we have here, or perhaps even a dedicated key programming tool. And unfortunately, both those options will definitely be considerably more expensive than what we have here. And so there we have it. What we have here is definitely a very functional and very capable tool. One of the best features is definitely the bi-directional control, which is excellent and will definitely help you for searching for faults on your vehicle. And so price-wise on the ArtiDiag Pro, the current price on Amazon sits around the $500 mark. It is sometimes on special offer. You can usually pick it up a little bit cheaper than that. You might get it as low as around $450. And if you are interested in picking up the ArtiDiag Pro, then we will be adding some Amazon links into the video description below for the very best available deals on Amazon. So if you're looking at one of these units, please be sure to help support us here at UWrench and be sure to use the links in the video description. And so thank you very much for watching. We really do appreciate it. If this video has been helpful for you, can we ask a quick favour? Can you take 1 second out of your busy schedule just to hit that like button for us before you leave? Likewise, please consider subscribing. We've got loads more great content on our YouTube channel just waiting for you to check out. Thank you. We'll see you again.